Good morning, all of you. Welcome to C. Jayendra Rank Zone, subject chemistry. So, welcome you all. Today we are going to start 12th class, competitive part of chemistry. That is, today I am going to start solid state. Now, this is solid state. In this chapter, we are going to discuss about types of solids and what is the nature of solids, complete information about solids. Very, very important chapter for NEET and JEE mains. So, all of you please listen carefully and try to understand the concept. Now I'm starting the class, that is solid state. Coming to introduction to solid state, already you know solids constitute a large part of our lives as we utilize solids more than liquids and gases in our day-to-day activities. Generally, a solid is defined as a substance which has rigidity underline, I'm doing underlining for rigidity because these are the properties of solids: rigidity, fixed shape and size. So solid is defined as a substance which has rigidity, fixed shape and size. But what makes solid different from gases and liquids? It is the binding force between them, between the nature of particles of matter, that varies with solids, liquids and gases. So the nature of particles of matter and the binding force between them varies with solids, liquids and gases. For example, the particles of matter in liquids and gases are free to move inside the structure. As you already know, the molecules or the substances or the particles in the liquids and gases flow easily, whereas coming to solids, it will not flow easily. That's why liquids and gas are also called as fluids. On the contrary, particles of matter inside solid remain stationary in their position, leading to the reason why solids do not flow like liquids and gases. I hope it is clear. Next. Now, what actually is solid? We are discussing now. Solid forms crystal lattice. Very, very important point. A solid always forms crystal lattice. In the lattice, we can see how particles of matter are arranged to form solid shape. The space between particles of matter in solids is quite less as compared to liquids and gases. This is the reason why the solids are rigid in nature, as the constituent particles are closely bound to each other. Very important. Solids are rigid in nature as the constant particles are closely bound to each other. The study of solid state is all about exploring the nature, arrangement, and forces between the constituent particles. So in this chapter, we are going to read this only. Next. Coming to solid state. Solids are substances characterized by definite shape, volume, and high density. In solid state, the constituent particles of matter are arranged in several patterns. The study of solid state is called solid state chemistry, also known by the name materials chemistry, which explores preparation, the structure of properties of solid state materials. Solids are defined by following general properties. First one, definite shape, definite volume, rigidity, high density, low compressibility. All these are very important. Please note down. Solids have definite shape, definite volume, they are rigid in nature, they have high density, and they have low compressibility. The constant particles of matter inside solid atoms, molecules, or ions are tightly packed together and bound by strong attractive force. So in solids, the intermolecular force of attraction is maximum. In solids, the intermolecular force of attraction is maximum. Examples: all electronic gadgets, books, table, etc. are solids, depict property like rigidity and have high density. So this is the basic idea about solids. Basic idea about solids. They have definite shape. And now the cause of existence of solids state. The solid state exists because of following reasons. They are intermolecular forces and thermal energy. So these 2 points are very important. Why the solids have because of what is a solid state? They are existing because of the following reasons, based on their intermolecular forces, and second one is thermal energy. The forces between constant particles of matter inside solid are known as intermolecular forces. The forces are attractive in nature and are responsible for holding all the particles together and making the existence of solid state possible. The constant particles are held such that they can't move from their position and either to only oscillate about their mean position. There are four types of intermolecular forces, namely dipole-dipole forces, London dispersion forces, hydrogen bonding, induced dipole force. These are the four forces acting in the solid between the particles. All the first three intermolecular forces are collectively called as, that is dipole-dipole forces, London dispersion forces, and hydrogen bonding. They are collectively called as van der Waals forces and are responsible for the existence of solid. So this is very, very important point of view. So what are the intermolecular forces acting in a solid? Dipole-dipole forces, London dispersion forces, hydrogen bonding, induced dipole forces. So these forces we will discuss clearly in chemical bonding. Next. Now, second important factor, first is based on intermolecular force of attraction. And the second one is thermal energy. The energy acting between constant particles of matter in solid is known as thermal energy because heat is produced. And thermal energy is also known as kinetic energy and is responsible for the motion of molecules inside solid lattice. Thermal energy increases with the increase in temperature. That's why we can easily say when when you heat a solid, it always changes into liquid mostly. And hence, more the thermal energy, faster will be the movement of molecules. And at low temperature, the value of thermal energy is low and intermolecular forces are stronger. So, if you increase the temperature, the thermal energy increases, due to which the molecules flow inside the solid, and due to which what happens, the intermolecular force of attraction decreases. This resists the flow of molecules and allow them to oscillate about their mean position. That's why in a solid, when you give some amount of energy to the solid, they vibrate in their mean positions. That is very, very important point. Now coming to types of solids. On the basis of arrangement of constant particles, solids are generally classified into two different categories, which are crystalline solids, amorphous solids. So mainly solids are classified into two categories. One is crystalline solids, second one is amorphous solids. The solids in which the constant particles are arranged in a regular manner are called crystalline solids. They are also known as true solids. So crystalline solids are true solids. In the crystalline solids, the particles of matter are arranged regularly in a three-dimensional network called a lattice or crystal lattice. So what is a crystal lattice? The arrangement of particles in a three-dimensional space is called a crystal lattice. There are many points of crystal lattice and each point represents a constant particle of matter inside solids. These points are known as lattice points or lattice sites. So examples of crystalline solids: sodium chloride, copper, iron, sulfur, phosphorus, etc. So these are the main crystalline solids. So in crystalline solids, as you see in the picture, the particles are very close to each other. Example, table salt, that is nothing but sodium chloride. And the particles arrange themselves in a pattern that is called three-dimensional pattern. So it's very, very important, three-dimensional. So 3D pattern in a crystalline solid. So particles are very close to each other. Next, coming to amorphous solids. The solids in which the arrangement of constant particles is irregular and not fixed, and they have short range order. Very, very important, short range order and not fixed are known as amorphous solids. Amorphous solids have a tendency to flow, hence they are also known as pseudo-solids. Pseudo-solids means as amorphous solids have the tendency to flow little bit, not like liquid and gas, hence they are called as pseudo-solids. Example, glass, gels, polymers, etc. So you can see in the right hand side picture, so the molecules are not closely packed as in case of two solids. So they have irregular pattern. The pattern is not repeated regularly and it has very short range order, very short range order. Whereas in crystalline solids, it's a long range order. Means the same pattern you can see it is visible throughout the solid. But here irregular pattern will be visible throughout the solid. That's why they are called as amorphous solids. And moreover, the intermolecular force of attraction in amorphous solids is less and hence they have the tendency to flow slowly. That's why they are also called as pseudo-solids. So examples already I have discussed: glass, gels, polymers, etc. All these are called as amorphous solids. Now coming to application of solid state. Solids have a number of applications in our day-to-day lives. Some of them are NaCl, example of crystalline solid, is used in cooking and preparation of several edible items. Glass, an example of amorphous solid, is used widely as a major industry component like in buildings, window panes, etc. Polymers and gels are used majorly in maintenance industry and ensure proper functioning of electronic and mechanical equipment. So several solids are used these days to cure certain diseases, thereby aiding the medical industries to do better. These are the main uses of solids. So this is a amorphous glass. You can see the tendency. You can see the tendency is not repeated, and it is only for short range. You can see the benzene rings, cyclic hexene rings, etc., etc. But the thing is the exact shape of amorphous solid, that is called glass, which is also called as silicon dioxide. And rubber is also an example of amorphous solids. They have very short range order. Short range order, regular pattern is not throughout the solid. Whereas in crystalline solids, regular pattern is throughout the solid. Next, coming to classification of solids. Solids are broadly classified into two types: crystalline solids and amorphous solids, already we discussed. Now we are going to see the important points regarding crystalline solids and amorphous solids, because in the examination, based on this concept, they'll ask statement-based questions. Statement-based question means they'll ask the question like this: which of the following is correct for crystalline solids, or incorrect for crystalline solids or amorphous solids, and vice versa. Now coming to these, these statements are very, very important. You have to remember. A crystalline solid is a substance whose constant particles possess regular orderly arrangement. Regular orderly arrangement is very, very important. Regular orderly arrangement is present in crystalline solid. Example: sodium chloride, sucrose, diamond, etc. An amorphous solid is a substance whose constant particles do not possess a regular orderly arrangement. They do not possess a regularly orderly arrangement. Example: glass, plastics, rubber, starch, and proteins. Though amorphous solids do not possess long-range regularity, in some cases they may possess small regions of orderly management. Very, very important. In some cases they may possess small regions of orderly arrangement, but there is only of short range. These crystalline parts of an otherwise amorphous solid are known as crystallites. They are also called as crystallites. Next, very important point: an amorphous solid does not possess a sharp melting point. It undergoes liquefaction over a broad range of temperature. So we can convert easily an amorphous solid into liquid over a wide range of temperature. Next, the amorphous solids do not possess any characteristic heat of fusion. When an amorphous solid is cut with the help of a sharp-edged knife, it results in an irregular cut. So amorphous substances are also sometimes referred to as supercooled liquids. This is very, very important. Why the amorphous solids are called as supercooled liquids? Because they possess disorderly arrangement like liquids. In fact, many amorphous solids such as glass are capable of flowing. For example, if you see the window panes of very old houses, reveals that the panes are thicker at the bottom. If you see the window panes of old buildings, you will notice that at the base of the window pane, it is more thicker than at the top, because the glass molecules has flown under constant influence of gravity. So that's why we can say glass is a supercooled liquid, also called as pseudosolids. Next, this table is very, very important. From this table, you can expect a question, because I told you already, this is statement-based question will be given from this. So what are the main difference between crystalline solids and amorphous solids? Once again, quick look. The internal arrangement of particles is regular, so that they possess definite and regular geometry in case of crystalline solids. In case of amorphous solids, the internal arrangement of particles is irregular. Yes, they do not have any definite geometry. And coming to crystalline solids, they have sharp melting points. And amorphous solids, they do not have sharp melting points. There is regularity in the external form when crystals are formed. There is no regularity in the external form when amorphous solids are formed. Very, very important point. Crystalline solids give a regular cut when cut with a sharp edged knife. They give a regular shape and they do not have regular shape. And amorphous solids give a irregular cut. They have characteristic heat of fusion. They do not have characteristic heat of fusion. Crystalline solids are rigid and their shape is not distorted by mild distorting forces. So if you give any heat or something else to the crystalline solids, they do not tend to change. Amorphous solids are not very rigid. These can be distorted by bending or compressing forces. Crystalline solids are regarded as true solids. Amorphous solids are regarded as supercooled liquids or pseudo-solids. Very, very important point. Eighth point, definitely they'll ask in the examination. Crystalline solids are anisotropic. What is anisotropic? The physical properties such as refractive index, conductivity, thermal expansion, etc. are different in different directions. That's why they are called as anisotropic in nature. This is due to orderly arrangement of particles. So crystalline solids are anisotropic. What is anisotropic topic means? Here, they do not have same properties such as physical properties such as refractive index, conductivity, thermal expansion, etc. Amorphous solids are isotropic in nature. This implies that various physical properties are same in all the directions. This is because of random arrangement of particles. So amorphous solids are isotropic, crystalline solids are anisotropic. Definitely they'll ask question based on this concept, and this table is very, very important. Next, coming to uses of amorphous solids. Amorphous solids such as glass and plastics are very important materials and are widely used in construction, houseware, laboratory wear, etc. Amorphous silica is likely to be the best material for converting sunlight into electricity, that is photovoltaic cell. Amorphous silica is used in photovoltaic cells. Next, another well-known amorphous solid is rubber, which is used in making tires, shoes, soles, etc. So these are the uses of amorphous solids. Now, in crystalline solids, regular arrangement, true solid, sharp melting point, and isotope. Brief explanation of crystalline solid. These 4 points are important. So crystalline solids have a regular arrangement, true solid, sharp melting point, and isotope. I hope it is clear. Next, classification of solids based on different binding forces. Now we are going to see the types of solids. Already we have seen that is crystalline amorphous. Now they are further classified into what? Now in this chapter we are going to deal more with crystalline solids. So amorphous solids topic is finished over there itself. And in this chapter we are going to discuss more about crystalline solids. So crystalline solids can be classified into different categories depending upon the type of constituent particles and the nature of attractive forces operating between them. So they are broadly classified into atomic solids, molecular solids, ionic solids, covalent solids, and metallic solids. Now we have a detailed picture about all these solids. What are atomic solids? In these solids, the constant particles are atoms. These closely packed atoms are held by London dispersion forces. So atomic solids are held together by means of London dispersion forces. Some examples of are crystals of noble gases. You know, noble gases are monoatomic molecules and they are held together by the means of London dispersion force, which is of very, very small intensity. Easily we can break that force. Such solids are very soft, possess very low melting point, and poor conductors of heat and electricity. So this is very, very important point. So atomic solids can be having very low melting point and poor conductors of heat and electricity, and they are very soft in nature. Next, molecular solids. In these solids, the constant particles which pack up together are molecules of the substance. These molecules may be non-polar, very, very important, non-polar. Non-polar means dipole moment is equal to 0. And maybe polar, that is dipole moment is greater than 0. So what are non-polar solids we are discussing now? In case of non-polar molecules, the attractive forces operating between the molecules are van der Waals forces, which are also called as dispersion forces. The examples of such solids are dry ice, that is solid carbon dioxide, iodine crystals, etc. In case of polar molecules, the attractive forces operating between the molecules in solid state and are called as dipole-dipole forces. What is dipole-dipole forces? So one will be charged. Example, if you take HCl, in HCl what happens? Chlorine is highly electron affinity atom. So it pulls the electron towards itself and becomes partially positive charge, partial negative charge as it is gaining the electron. And hydrogen loses the electron, so it gets partial positive charge. So that's why they are called, they develop a dipole-dipole force. However, in some solids with polar molecules, the interparticle forces are hydrogen bonds. So hydrogen bonding also we'll discuss clearly. Already you know what is hydrogen bonding. The examples of solids, such solids are solid hydrogen fluid, solid ammonia, etc. So in these two molecules, we have hydrogen bonding. So a molecular solids will consisting of mainly two. One is non-polar and there is polar. And non-polar will be, in the attractive forces will be van der Waals forces, and in polar the attractive forces will be dipole-dipole interaction. And apart from this, we have some solids with polar molecules having intermolecular hydrogen bonding. Intermolecular hydrogen bonding. So this is clear, I think. Now, characteristics of molecular solids. Some of the general characteristics of molecular solids are they are generally soft, their melting points are low to moderately high. The melting points of solids with non-polar molecules are relatively low, whereas the solids with polar molecules have moderate to high melting points due to dipole-dipole interaction and hydrogen bonding. They are generally bad conductors of heat and electricity. They have generally low density. I hope it is clear for molecular solids. Now, coming to molecular solids, quick look about molecular solids. They are mainly classified into three categories: non-polar, polar, and hydrogen bonded. So, non-polar are soft, insulator of electricity, very low melting point, intermolecular forces, or dispersion force or London force. Example: argon, carbon tetrachloride, hydrogen molecule, carbon dioxide molecule, tri-ice. Next, polar, soft, insulator of electricity, low melting point, intermolecular forces, dipole-dipole interaction. Example, HCl and sulfur dioxide. Next, hydrogen bonded, hard, insulator of electricity, low melting point, intermolecular forces, hydrogen bonding, water. Example, ice. So these are about molecular solids. Next, we are coming to another type of solid that is called ionic solids. Ionic solids, the name itself says they have ionic bond in them. So in ionic solids, the constant particles are ions of opposite charges. Each ion is surrounded by a definite number of ions of opposite charges. So for example, in NaCl, sodium chloride crystal, each sodium ion is surrounded by 6 chloride ions. Hence, coordination number of sodium is 6. And at the same time, each chloride ion is surrounded by 6 ions. Therefore, the coordination number of the chlorine ion is also 6. However, in calcium fluoride molecule, CaF2, crystal, each ion is surrounded by 8 fluoride ions. For one calcium, it is surrounded by 8 fluoride ions, and each ion is surrounded by 4 ions. Each calcium ion is surrounded by, each fluorine ion is surrounded by 4 calcium atoms. Hence, in crystal, the coordination number of ions are respectively 4 and 8. That is, 4 is the coordination number of calcium and 8 is the coordination number of fluorine. The interparticular forces are ionic solids and are based on ionic bonds or electrovalent bond operating between the ions of opposite charges. Some examples of ionic solids easily metal and non-metal combination, that is cesium chloride, sodium chloride, zinc sulfide, calcium fluoride, etc. So all these ionic solids are based on ionic bond. I hope it is clear for ionic solids. Next, we have characteristics of ionic solids. Some common characteristics of ionic solids are they are hard, brittle, and have low volatility. They have high melting points. They are poor conductors of electricity in solid state. However, they become good conductors of electricity in molten state or in dissolved state. Very, very important point. Ionic solids are poor conductors of electricity in solid state, but if you change them into molten state, that is liquid state, they are good conductors of heat and electricity. They are generally soluble in polar solvents like water. So all ionic solids are soluble in water. Next, coming to next variety of solids, that is covalent solids. In this type of solids, the constant particles are atoms of same or different elements connected to each other by covalent bond network. Covalent bond network is important over here. So covalent bond network means in these solids, the bonding between the two atoms which are holding together is nothing but by the means of covalent bond. For example, in diamond, only carbon atoms constitute the covalent network, while the carbon atom covalent bond network is constituted by silicon and carbon atoms. Carbon atom formula is SiC2. SiC2 is carborundum. It's an ore. So obviously, the interparticle forces operating in these solids are covalent bonds. These solids are also called as network solids because the covalent bonds extend in 3 dimensions, forming a giant interlocking structure. The covalent bonds extend in forming 3 dimensions, in forming a giant interlocking structure. Some examples of covalent solids are diamond, silicon carbide, aluminum nitride, etc. Characteristics of covalent solids. Characteristics of covalent solids. Some common characteristics of covalent solids are they are very hard. Diamond is the hardest naturally occurring substance, as already you know. They have high melting points. They have they are poor conductors of heat and electricity, and they have high heats of fusion. So these are the main important points about covalent solids. Next, we have a final one, that is metallic solids. In this type of solids, the constant particles are metal atoms. The interparticular forces in these solids are metallic bonds. So in metals, how the metals are arranged together, then by the means of metallic bonds. Now, in these metallic crystals, the metal atoms occupy the fixed positions, but their valence electrons are mobile. The close packed assembly of metal kernels mean like house of a kernel means house, part of metal atom without valence electrons remain immersed in sea of mobile valence electrons. So these metal kernels will be in the sea of mobile electrons, that is valence electrons, which is shown clearly in the diagram. The attractive force between the kernels and mobile valence electrons is termed as metallic bond. So what is the force driving between them? The attractive force is nothing but the between the kernels, that is positively charged for kernels, and mobile valence electrons is termed as metallic bond. So for a very positively charged kernel, they are surrounded by mobile valence electrons. So they have attraction between these two. Now, characteristics of metallic solids, they are generally range from soft to very hard. Like sodium is a soft metal, whereas other metals are hard. They are malleable and ductile. All the metallic properties are applicable to them. They are good conductors of heat and electricity. They possess bright luster. They have high melting points and boiling points. They have moderate heats of fusion. So metallic solids represents all the properties of metals. Now, this is a clear table. You can just go through it, see clearly, because already these we have discussed. So just you can see types of crystals: atomic, molecular, ionic, covalent, and metallic. And what are the particles, that is particles present in them, and what are the binding forces. And fourth one is properties, and fifth one is examples. This already we have discussed. So this table is very, very important. I hope if you write this table, it's very better, because from this table also for the completed exam, they are going to ask a statement based question, that is which of the following is incorrect for covalent solids. What are the examples, which of the following are covalent solids? Like these questions they will ask, giving options. Next, coming to today's class discussion, questions based on today's class. Just few questions I am giving, but you can solve many questions in your objective books, that is Jayendra material. So I hope. Now question number 1, what are amorphous solids? They have sharp melting point, undergo clean cleavage, regular geometry, and are isotopic in nature. So the answer for this is they do not have sharp melting point, they do not undergo clean cleavage. So answer is D. Next, second question. So first answer, amorphous solids are isotopic in nature because all the their physical properties are similar in all the stages. Which of the following solids do not crystalline? Copper, sodium chloride, diamond, and silica. So do not crystalline means amorphous solids. So silica is the amorphous solid. So second answer is D. Next question number 3. Which of the following statement regarding covalent solids is incorrect? I told you, statement based questions they will ask. So that's why I have given one example for you. Covalent solids is incorrect. They are very hard, first statement. Second statement, they have very high melting points. They are good conductors of heat. they have high heats of fusion. So they are good conductors of heat is the only answer. So third option is C. Third question number 3 is C. Now question number 4. Dry ice is a type of solid. It is molecular solid, ionic solid, atomic solid, or metallic solid. So already we know it is molecular solids which are held by the means of dipole-dipole interaction or London dispersion forces. Molecular solids. Fourth one A. Next, quartz is a ionic solid, covalent solid, atomic solid, metallic solid. Quartz is a ionic solid, covalent solid, metallic solid, or atomic solid. So answer is fifth one B, covalent solid. So quartz is a covalent solid. So quartz is a covalent solid. So these are the 5 questions which I feel it is important. Remaining questions also you can do from other materials. And if you have general material, straight away you open the general material and do it clearly. So today I'm ending this class since it is only introduction today, and more about solid state we'll discuss in the next class. Thank you all. Good day.